There was no one in the men's locker room. I looked around cautiously and went straight to Dev's locker. I was about to open his locker when I heard voices. They were already close. I don't have time to run away. They'll notice. I was in a panic. Suddenly, I saw an empty locker. As soon as I closed the door behind me, the guys came into the locker room. I managed it. I recognized Dev's voice. I heard him telling someone that he had already thought of everything and it was time to have fun at the headmaster today, during the New Year's party. I froze in horror because the headmaster is my father. What do these freaks want to do with him? Dev added that things didn't go very smoothly with the chemistry teacher. They were almost burned down. We'll have to be more careful this time. I was barely breathing from the strain. Last week, there was a rumor that the chemistry teacher had a big fight with Dev, and then she went to the hospital with a broken spine. Oh my god. If Dev and his squad had hurt her, what would they do to my father? The boys' voices immediately faded, and I heard footsteps approaching. Oh man. I couldn't even imagine what would happen to me if I got caught. Through the crack, I saw that Dev was very close. I have to run. I pushed the door open and ran away. The guys were chasing me. I ran to the women's bathroom and locked myself in the toilet. The bathroom door creaked and I heard men's voices. Someone came up and nervously tried to handle my stall. Oh god, I'm trapped. And then bell rang. Hearing it, the boys quickly left the toilet, apparently afraid that they would be noticed. I looked out and suddenly saw the words "Keep silent or you're finished" written in blood red marker on the mirror. They'll do something to me if I tell everyone. But I have to save my father. I went to the headmaster's office. He had to find out before it was too late. Dad was annoyed that I distracted him. The New Year's party was already that night, and nothing was ready. Dad, you have to cancel everything. It's very important. I told my father everything and asked him to cancel the party as soon as possible. But he just smiled and said that I probably just don't want my father hanging around at the party. What's that got to do with it? You're in real danger. I asked my father to come with me so that he could see the inscription on the mirror. Maybe at least it would convince him. Dad reluctantly agreed. But when we went to the toilet, the inscription on the mirror was gone. Dev deliberately erased it. But there was one more clue. Let Dad watch the cameras as I was chased by these guys. My father was mad. He told me to go home and get ready for the holiday, and not to distract him anymore for nonsense. Dev's a fine guy. He wouldn't bully me. Dad left, and I didn't know what to do. I wanted to cry from impotence. Maybe at least Mom could convince Dad that he was in danger. I was about to go home when I heard a voice behind me saying, "Here you are." When I turned around, I saw Dev with his squad. And it seemed to me that one of them was holding something suspicious in his hands. Oh my god. They saw me talking to Dad. Now I'm finished. They were already approaching me, and I threw my backpack at Dev out of fear and rushed out of the school. I've never run so fast before. But Dev wasn't far behind. He won every race at school. I think I'm doomed. But I was close to home, just a little more. The guys were already a couple of meters away from me. I ran to the front door and yanked on the handle. It's closed. The boys were getting closer. A few seconds more and they'll grab me. And I ran to the back door. Mom sometimes forgets to lock it. Maybe I'll get lucky. I pulled the handle and it was open. I'm saved. Dev was already closed, but I managed to close the door right in front of his face. I locked the door and let out a sigh of relief. I listened for every sound. The boys stood in the backyard for a while, and then I heard footsteps, and they were gone. They leave me alone? I went up to my room. I have to wait for my mother and tell her everything. I heard a sound of a motor from the outside. I looked out the window. It was my mother's car. But to my horror, I noticed that Dev and his friends were standing on the other side of the street. Heck! I saw my mother taking the grocery bags out of the trunk. Dev walked up to her and said something. And then she was surrounded by everyone else. I thought Mom looked confused. Are they threatening her? But suddenly, she smiled and gave the guys heavy bags and waved her hand, inviting them to come in. Mom, what are you doing? Don't invite them in. I tried to pretend I wasn't there. It was noisy at first, but then it turned quiet. Maybe they've all gone. Suddenly, there was a knock on my door. I startled. My mother's voice came from the other side of the door. She said that my friends came to see me. Without opening the door, I quickly told her about the upcoming assassination attempt. We have to get rid of them urgently. My mom eerily sighed. She said I'd watched too many thrillers, and I could see the dangers out of the blue, and she added that it was indecent to talk through the door. Mom left, but a couple of minutes later, I heard another knock. Mom, I opened the door in frozen horror. There was Dev. I slammed the door in his face. What should I do? It was useless to hide, and all that remained was to run. I quickly opened the window and looked down. God, it's scary to jump. But I had no choice. I could hear Dev tugging on the door handle and shouting something. I squeezed my eyes shut and jumped down. I think I twisted my leg. It wasn't enough. I hobbled over to the neighbors to call the police, but they weren't home. Then, trying not to pay attention to the pain, I rushed to the police station. From the doorway, out of breath, I shouted that I was being chased and that an assassination attempt was being made on the headmaster during the New Year's party. They have to detain Dev and his squad immediately. They're already in my house. But the cops didn't react. One of them told me with a bored look that I can go. They will take control of everything. How? You didn't even ask anything. But the cops already kicked me out of the station. Tears of resentment and fear choked me. What should I do? And then I realized I have to save my father myself. I just don't have any other choice. I looked at my phone. I had 10 missed calls from my mom. Oh my god, what if something happened to her? I called her right back. I could hear the beeps. Mom, come on, answer me. Finally, I heard her voice. She angrily said that I had done something disgusting and had to go home. After this behavior, I don't deserve to go to the party. I'm sorry, Mom, but I have to. I hung up and ran to school. I think I have a plan. Before the party started, I sneaked into the security room and took the key to the biology classroom. And then I ran up to my dad and blurted out that I needed his help urgently. Someone let out rats in the lab to ruin the school party. My father immediately hurried there. He could not allow this to happen again. Dad came into the classroom and started checking the cages. But I locked the door. I'm sorry, Dad, but it's for your own good. My father was yelling for me to let him out, or I'd be in huge trouble. I saw in the window at the door how red his face was with anger. He abruptly stopped and looked at someone behind me. I turned around slowly. 2 policemen were standing behind me. Apparently, they were sent here after my message, but suddenly, they asked me to give them the key. No, you've got it all mixed up. I'm not the criminal. Dev is. I was caught. While one of the cops was trying to figure out why I locked up the headmaster, the other one let Dad out. As soon as my father left, Dad ran up to him and said the headmaster had to go down immediately. One of the students was feeling ill. Dad, no! I started to stop him, but the cop grabbed me hard. Then I pretended to lose consciousness, and the policeman slightly loosened his grip. That was enough. I ran down the steps. The cops ran after me. If only I could make it. There was no one on the first floor. Then I heard the sound of a gunshot, and then the girl screeching. Everything inside me collapsed. No, Dad! Dad! Panicking, I ran out the back door and into the yard. I saw the students watching the fireworks. And Dev was handing my dad a cake that said 10 years of schoolwork. What does it all mean? What about the assassination attempt? I was knocked down by the cops. They were about to snap the handcuffs on my hands when my dad intervened. He said he seemed to understand what had happened and briefly explained them the situation. When they let me go, Dev came up to me and said I was a great runner, and it seemed like he did have a chance at the school race. He added, it's a pity that he and the guys didn't get to talk to me about the surprise. What about the chemistry teacher's spine? Dev said that after she went to the hospital with a broken spine, he and the guys decided to support her and set off fireworks under the ward's windows. And then he asked me what I was doing in the men's locker room that morning. I was embarrassed. And let's keep that, Dev, as my secret. I tried to concentrate and prepare for the exam. It was already in a week. If I didn't pass, I was screwed. Suddenly, my twin brother Leo burst into the room. Hey, you should actually knock. You've got to help me and beat that ugly Ron. You're strong and cool. He blurted out, took out his phone and showed a picture of some guy. Leo, are you out of your mind? Leo explained. The head scumbag of the class, high school student Ron, set a meeting date and place, and now Leo was screwed. He hadn't even fought once. Yes, my brother unfortunately was really a weakling. All he did was learn lessons and read books. Nerd. But I did expect to have to kick his enemy's ass. What had Leo done to run into some scumbag? My brother and I really looked almost alike. The faces were very similar, and we had blue eyes and blonde hair. But the characters were different. I was active since childhood, so my parents sent me to karate lessons, and I was really good at it. Soon, sports became my life's work, and I was transferred to a sports school. But my father gave an ultimatum to pass all the exams for A's. Otherwise, no training, and I just hated studying. Unlike my brother, he was the smartest kid in school but also the weakest. And then I got an idea. If I replaced him, he would pass the exams for me. Bingo! I immediately put a condition on Leo, and he agreed. Okay, fighting was a lot more fun than studying for tests. We shook hands, and the next morning, I was out of my room in Leo's clothes and a bandana with my hair tucked under it. When I entered the school, I immediately felt a push in my back. Hey, Leo, did you find this bandana in the trash? I turned around. There was a cute guy standing in front of me, smiling maliciously. I jumped in surprise. And this was Ron? He didn't even look like a scumbag, but I had to put him in his place. And I gave a cheeky grunt. And in a rough male-based voice, blurted out to him that at least my face was normal. A chuckle ran through his cronies, and Ron stood there, watching me in confusion. He clearly didn't expect this from my brother, but I got straight to the point. So when's the huddle, Ronnie? He narrowed his eyes suspiciously, said that soon, and left. Weakling. I'll show him who's in charge in seconds. The lesson started and the teacher handed out the test results. He said that my brother's and Ron's works were the best. Come on. How did Ron get such results? He was a stupid scumbag. And then some pieces of paper started flying into my back. Hey! What the? I turned around and saw Ron's smug smile. I didn't wait and immediately threw my pencil case in his face. Let him know who he was messing with. You must have a lot of complexes if you bully others, I said, and the class burst out laughing. At this point, the teacher said that if I was so smart, I would probably immediately tell them in what year Columbus discovered America. Hell, I didn't think I'd have to study for Leo. I tried to think of something to say, and then I mumbled something unintelligible. There was a deathly silence in the classroom, and suddenly I realized that I had forgotten to make my voice low. I answered like a girl. I complained of a sore throat and stormed out of the classroom. I ran out of school and sat on the lawn in the backyard to calm myself. My heart was pounding. What if I'd been found out? I was so excited that I didn't even notice the shadow hanging over me. In the next second, someone abruptly picked me up by my t-shirt. It was Ron. He stared into my eyes and vowed to find out why Leo had suddenly become so bold. I quickly pushed Ron away and hurried home. Enough adventure for today. I wanted to distract myself, but when I got home, all I could think about was that idiot Ron, how he pissed me off. He was so smart and he pretended to be someone else. I wanted to kick his ass. In the morning, I looked at the schedule and was shocked. PE would start in 5 minutes. I couldn't change clothes with the guys in the same room. They'd know I was a girl right away. Then I went to the teacher and lied that I had forgotten the gym suit, but then Ron appeared out of nowhere. He smiled mischievously and said that he just had a spare set. Damn, he was bothering again. The teacher nodded, and I had to go to the locker room. Ron threw a bag of clothes at me, then sat down on the bench and stared at me. So what do I do now? I glanced around the crowded locker room and hesitated. Ron was staring at me. I was shaking with excitement. I pretended to have a stomach bug and ran out of the locker room. I rushed to the toilet and only caught my breath in the stall. I decided to change right there. I was about to take off my t-shirt, but my head was stuck in the collar. Then I heard the door to the stall open. My heart skipped a beat, and I spun around. Damn, I forgot to close the door. My stomach went cold. I think someone saw me changing. Looks like I got caught. I shivered and immediately imagined how everyone in the gym was laughing that some girl was going to school instead of Leo. A lump froze in my throat. The lesson was only a few minutes away. I needed to collect my thoughts and show everyone that I was not a girl. Then whoever caught me in the booth would definitely change their mind. In class, I did all the exercises perfectly and even did push-ups more than all the guys in the class. No one expected this from Leo, and Ron spent the whole class staring at me. After class, I was standing in my locker getting all my textbooks when Ron suddenly ran up to me and grabbed one of the books. That's it! I swung as hard as I could to punch Ron in the face, but he dodged me, grabbed me around the waist, and pinned me against the lockers. I was scared for a second, and Ron was looking at me sharply. Oddly, I noticed for the first time how deep his brown eyes were. We stared at each other for a few seconds, and then Ron abruptly released me. My heartbeat drowned out all sounds, and my cheeks seemed to be burning. What the hell was wrong with me? I gave him a confused look, grabbed my things, and quickly ran away. I hurried home and plopped down on the bed without undressing. God, did I like my brother's nemesis? Immediately, Leo burst into my room. He kept saying I was the best sister in the world. Wow, what happened? Leo held out his phone and showed messages from girls. You're pretty. It turns out you're so cheeky. Brother Leo was beaming with joy. And for a long time, he thanked me for helping to deal with Ron and also made him popular. It was like something had snapped inside. So now Leo was going back to school and I wasn't going to see Ron again? A lump immediately rose in my throat. Leo was on his way to the door when he suddenly turned around and asked me to go to school for the last time tomorrow. What? Leo continued. We needed to get Ron out of himself, so that he finally set a meeting date in place and then deal with him completely. I nodded my head in confusion. Yes, Leo. I couldn't sleep all night. I decided that I should not give in to sudden feelings. I should hate Ron. He was awful to Leo, so I was going to show Ron where was his place. The next day, I burst into the classroom and immediately wanted to challenge Ron, but he was not there. I ran all over the school, but Ron seemed to have fallen through the ground. Hell, why did he go missing today? I sat down at my desk and tried to read, but all I could think about was Ron. Feelings were raging inside me. He was bullying my brother. I should hate him with all my heart, and all I could think about was Ron. I was so tense that I didn't even notice him barging into the classroom with his friends. I couldn't wait any longer, so I immediately took off and tried to punch him, but Ron dodged me. I was shaking with anger, and he was smiling. How I hate that smile. There was no time to think. It was now or never, and then I saw a package of firecrackers in the hands of his friend. You're pretending to be cool, but can you do this? I shouted at Ron. Anger boiled inside me. I began to lose control of my emotions, and I was carried away. I abruptly snatched the package, lit one of the firecrackers, and threw it at the board. Take it, Ron. Don't brick it. Bang. What an explosion! It seems like the whole class heard it. So what? Do you understand who's the coolest here? I was so proud, but then an angry teacher appeared in the doorway, and he immediately asked, "Who did this?" And then he looked down at the package of firecrackers in my hand and shook with anger. "To the principal! Now!" The teacher yelled so loudly that I flinched. And only now did I realize what I had done. After this, Leo would be kicked out of school, and he could have a bright future if I hadn't messed it up. I was sitting under the principal's office with my head down when I saw Ron at the end of the corridor. He ignored me and went into the office. No, wait! I panicked and ran to the office door. I thought Ron was going to turn Leo in, which was me. But suddenly I heard Ron say loudly that he had thrown in the firecracker. I couldn't believe it. Was he protecting me? Ron went on to say that he had given the package to Leo on purpose and that Leo had taken the blame. I was so nervous that I was about to rush into the office, but the door opened right in front of me and I buried my nose in Ron's chest. I asked excitedly, "Why did you take the blame for me?" And then Ron reached over to my head and gently took off my bandana. I didn't know what was going on. It turned out that he couldn't believe that Leo had changed so quickly. So he followed me to the bathroom before the class, and he understood everything. He said I was the bravest girl he knew. He didn't think Nerd Leo had such a cool sister. Yes, but why would you bully my brother? I asked sharply. Then Ron smiled sadly and said that he had behaved to Leo in the same way that his classmates had behaved to Ron as a child. It was only because of me that he realized how terrible it was. No one respects smart people, and you have to learn to be brave. Ron knew this firsthand. He never wanted to be known as a nerd, so he began to bully everyone around him. And Ron mysteriously added that he was very glad that everything turned out so well with our situation. I was standing there, frozen, when Ron suddenly gave me a timid hug, and a pleasant warmth spread through my body. Ron asked what I was doing tonight. Suddenly, I was overwhelmed with feelings, and I couldn't help it and jumped on him and screamed like a real girl. Did you like the video? Subscribe and like it. Support the channel. Thank you.